Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our community meeting for the Little Giant Fire 2026. My name is Mike Thune, and I am the Public Information Officer for California Incident Management Team 2. I want to first off start by thanking you for all attending, not only in person, but for those folks that are watching online. I want to give a special thanks to JA Media, who is making this live stream possible, along with Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue for the use of their social media page. I want to point out a couple things before we get started the rest of the meeting, but there are fire exits both behind you and in front of you in case we need them. There's also restrooms in the building and also an exit outdoor where you came in parking areas where we'll muster an event that we need to evacuate. I also want to thank Scott McFarland from the Southeast Region Manager from Washington DNR, who's also one of our agency administrators. I'm going to start by reading off a list of the names of the people that will be speaking tonight. Want to give everybody after we speak and listen to our speakers, after we have our speakers present, you'll notice on both sides of the room, your left and your right, you'll see different maps with different breakout groups. So after the meeting, we want to give folks an opportunity, if they have specific questions, to talk with individuals from those different organizations. We also recognize that some people are curious about updates, and after the updates, they want to go on with the rest of their evening. So we'll start we're going to have our first speaker, Christian Litz, Operations Section Chief for California Interagency Incident Management Team 2.
Good evening, everybody. Christian Litz, Operations on Team 2. I'll give you a little operational overview of the fire and what's going on right now and for the last couple days. So looking up on the west side of the fire in the Chihuahua Ridge system here, it's been holding good, staying on that east side of that ridge system. And as we come up around that western corner there, Maple Creek, we have seen some activity, but it's still been holding to that Maple Creek area, which we like. As it moves to the east side, it hasn't moved too much to the north, just normal daily growth with the fuels that it is, no direct spotting or anything. It's holding really good. As we come around, though, towards the Eniot River, that's where you see the activity today. It is pushing out of the Three Creek area here, and it's pushing hard against the Eniot River. So that's going to be a focus for tonight on us. As we come down, again, it's been holding around here. We've been slowing it down. Every day we don't have a lot of aircraft, but we've been slowing it down with the Super Scooper airplanes with the fixed wing and also a couple of helicopters when they are available. We're keeping a tight eye on the fire and tracking the progression on the southern half and the Chihuahua River system, especially if you guys know where the Huckleberry Flat area is. We've been doing some work over there as it comes around. So what have we been doing since we've been here? So we've been taking care of hazardous trees, so the resources can going in. We've been doing you see that a lot of planning, looking where we're going to go. You guys have a lot of fire in this area, and we're respectful of that, and we want to make good plans. So the number one focus is always life. Life is always the number one focus. So we've been doing structure defense using tactics like sprinklers, clearing spaces, wrapping structures, trying to protect them, preparing it, and building a plan. So if something comes in and impacts it, we want to limit all possible damage that could possibly happen to those structures. Secondly, remember, we are a full suppression operation. What that means is number one priority about fire perimeter and size is that we would like to keep it to the smallest footprint possible. But you do understand the reason why we do all the work we do, because what happens? Sometimes it grows big, wind affects it just like it is happening tonight, so we prepare for the bigger picture. So the primary control line, specifically around this Chihuahua River area, is right along the Big Meadow Creek Road. We finished that up. Mastication, heavy equipment, crew work, clearing out space, tying it all the way into the Twin River area. Also working on that primary road, which we're calling Division Sierra, which is moving eastbound from the 62. And we're moving up the ridge system and pulling down and around, trying to build that primary line to keep it south. So the road I'm talking about here is the 6210 road. Bring it down the ridge system, and if you know where the Maverick Saddle is down below there, that's where we're going to try to tie that in and looking for more ways to maybe the Mosquito Ridge and pushing it to the east, going to bring it back to Entiat. What we're also doing is building secondary control lines. So in the Pole Ridge area, we're building that shaded fuel break. What that means is we're taking a lot of the ground fuel, masticating it, mulching it down, so there's no carrier fuel to bring it through, and we're going to tie that in over to the IRA area on the east side, probably towards the Dragon or Dirty Face Peak side there. On the Eniot side, we've been doing a lot of strong work on the structural defense side, looking for the things. So a couple of the lines, one of the questions that you guys, thank you for questions that you put online. We're looking at the Tommy Creek, Tyee Creek, Mosquito Ridge system. We're looking at all those options, doing some work over there. We are now getting a camp set up on the eastern side, or the Enyat side. And what that means for us is now we can support even more resources. We've been very limited on resources for the first week that we've been here. They're starting to flood in, which is really good news for us. So we can push them now over to that side to be supported logistically, which is very important, and then move them on those control lines. We also have a night resources out here, so we bumped it up to a second division. We got more resources out there. We're pushing them out to the line, particularly looking at that over the Entiat River, and then keeping that present here by that Huckleberry Flat so that we make sure that we can take care of those homes there. So talked about some lines. So one thing they're talking about Lower Indian. I talked about those control lines that we're looking at over there. Burn scars. You got a lot of burn scars out here, which is a good thing as for fire behavior to run into. The bad thing, what it does for us, is it creates huge snag patches, which I think you're very aware. Snags are fire damaged trees that could possibly come down with wind or fire activity. So what it does to us in firefighters, it slows us down. We have to get falling modules, maybe some feller bunchers with the machines cutting them down. You guys know the business out here, but what it does is it slows down our ability to get to those fires. So what we do is we keep it safe for us, but we try really hard to push out and keep this fire as small as possible. Aircraft has been a real struggle. A lot of fires going on in the area. So we've been hoping more and more and asking for more aircraft. And we've been getting them on a daily basis on a loan. Type 1 copters, which are the bigger one you see, and some of the smaller Type 2s. The fixed wings, which I mentioned earlier, were these super scoopers. So we're using that fire, slow progression down. What that does, it might not put it out. We still have to get hand crews and resources in there to do it, but it slows us down so we can build a bigger picture, a bigger plan, so that we can make sure we can lock in more areas. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief List, for that. Our next speaker will be Dennis Burns, our fire behavior analyst. Some of you may have seen his videos on social media.
Stop. All right, good evening, everybody. Dennis Burns, Fire Behavior Team 2. So first thing is we're going to look a little bit at the weather. Our meteorologist is actually briefing the crews that are going out tonight. Obviously our crews are the most important focus. So we'll look at several days. So for tomorrow, things aren't looking real good. I think I mentioned that this morning. We're going into a pattern of warm and dry, and because this fire has been fuels dominated, that makes those fuels that much drier, and it allows them, they don't cool down at night essentially, and so the fire stays hot at night, so it gets a head start for the next day. So we're going to keep that pattern, and then as you see on Saturday, right now Spokane has a fire weather watch. In all probability, tomorrow around between 9 and 11 o'clock, they will switch that to a red flag warning. The main reason is for the dry period that we've seen over the last several days, and then with pretty significant winds. If you look at the winds here, sustained at 22, potential gusts at 42, that's specific for our fire. Some of the other areas are quite a bit higher. There was talk on the call with the Weather Service office today of a potential, well, in California we call them public safety power shutdowns, but you guys may be getting one of those. So I feel for you. That's why I bought a generator. So things actually improve. On Saturday, you'll see that the RH and the RH goes up, temperatures go down. Unfortunately, that's probably not until that dry cold front goes through. That's what comes in behind it. So conditions improve Sunday, Monday. We see pretty cool temperatures, pretty high RHs. The meteorologist actually mentioned that depending on where you are, there might even be a chance for a sprinkle or two, but no measurable rainfall, but we'll take anything we can get at this point. So that's kind of the outlook. Then you see we go back into a warm, dry pattern. As a fire behavior analyst, one of the things I look at is this instability. The reason why we look at that is when you're able to get a large column up, then we start talking about what is called plume-dominated fire behavior. And I don't want to scare you, but it is a serious concern. I've been on a half dozen fires on this forest, and this fire is burning very similar to what they do. It kind of goes along 5, 6, 7 days, and then something happens in the atmosphere that triggers a really big growth day. So if we can bring up the map. All right, so what we're looking at is, and Kristen mentioned it, we're seeing some heat up in here right now. We expect that to continue. No real significant movement. Part of the reason is it's bumping the Wolverine burn scar. There's also a lot of rock and broken stringers with the fuels. So because this is a fuels-dominated fire, it is going to go through all those fuels, but not make any significant runs. Coming down around the northwest corner, the fire, and I don't know, Maple Creek is the hero. It's been holding the fire. So coming down the west side, this is all rocked out along Chihuahua Ridge here. And the fire is burned up into, it's almost consumed most of the fuels. There's a few more stringers, but we've had westerly winds, northwesterly, southwesterly since we've been here, so not expecting anything to go over the top of the ridge. Coming down to the south here, the fire is just going to keep progressing. You know, we have our lines constructed down here. It's moved into a little bit sparser fuel type, and as Kristen mentioned, we're able to kind of check it up with the aircraft that we're getting. So we're not expecting any big runs. So we're just kind of let it kind of work its way towards us, and it will continue to lose intensity as it moves south. We've done some model runs. I mean, there are potential that the fire could move up to a mile in a 6-hour period, but we're not seeing the winds that would make it do that. And that right here, the fire is also hung up on a burn scar, and this one's only about 4 years old, so we're not expecting any movement into that area. The fire has gotten into it from when it made its big push on Friday, the day before we took the fire. So as Christian mentioned, it's going to take quite a bit to get in there with all those snag patches and all that, but again, not expecting any movement. Today, the big movement has been down 3 Creeks. It's getting right to the Eniot River Road. And even though this is in a burn scar, excuse me, it's quite a bit older. I want to say it's going on 21 years old. A lot of dead and down fuel in there, a lot of reprod, pine trees from about there to about there. And so the fire will progress through that, especially with the winds. And what we're seeing with the winds is when they have this westerly influence, all the winds want to come right through this little gap, right where 3 Creeks is. And then for some reason, they want to make a right turn and go right down the Eniot River. Talking with the IMET, talking with my long-term analysts, what we think is it's the influence off the Columbia River and the valley out there. As the valley heats up, it lifts all the warm air lifts, and it wants to pull all the air down. And that, we think that's the mechanism of what's going to occur here. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell, what we're expecting. I did get a couple questions online. The first one, I got to put my glasses on, I'm getting old. First one, I'm pretty sure Christian answered. One is, do you expect the fire to continue chunking south along the river and the valley floor? Yes, and when I say that, when there's 3 primary drivers of a fire, is fuels, weather, or topography. So one of those is the dominant feature. You know, when I say weather, generally that's wind. Fuels is what's burning. Topography is when it gets in alignment with a slope. This is a fuels-driven fire, so it's consuming all the dead and down material. Every once in a while, it's taking out some of the live stuff. When it gets into the snow brush or ceanothus, it will burn through that because the fuel moistures are such that it will carry fire now, but it doesn't really run real fast. So that's why we just call it chunking. Next one is asking about kind of what's going on. I would say that looking out there, it's definitely a mosaic. Probably 90% of the fire is actually doing good out there, just understory burn, because it is that fuels, just burning all the fuels down on the ground, not taking out a tremendous amount of the live fuels. Last Friday, when it made some significant runs, it did take out some stands of timber. Today, it did take out some small stands of timber along the Wolverine fire scar, but primarily most of that fire is actually in the fire scar. Yep, that's about it.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for that. And now, Paul Corrigan, our Air Resource Advisor.
Hi, good evening, everyone. As an air resource advisor, I have 1 foot in the wildland fire world and 1 foot in the air quality world. And you've probably noticed that the air quality challenge of our time is wildfire smoke. So you guys are not new to it here, as I know, because I was here about 4 years ago doing the same kind of work. I'm going to talk a little bit about the where and when and the impacts, a quick reminder about who's most susceptible, and then a couple ideas about how to limit your exposure, how to protect yourself and your health and that of your loved ones. So pretty smoky this morning in Plain and Lake Wenatchee area, pretty smoky yesterday morning. You look outside now, it's a beautiful sunny afternoon, right? And so we're going to see that same pattern going forward with smoky mornings and the smoke clearing out mostly in the afternoon. Tomorrow, very similar to today, okay? So it could reach unhealthy or even a little bit worse in the morning, clearing out hopefully by the afternoon. Saturday, as that cold front passes, that the definition of a cold front is kind of that we will have a new air mass coming through, so that should clear out the pollution briefly, even if it's not a huge help from a fire behavior standpoint. But I think we'll see a little better air Saturday, and then slowly just building back into the week Sunday and into early next week. So who is more susceptible? I didn't have a list of questions come in from the public like Dennis did, so I'll ask you guys one. Does anybody know who's in those more sensitive groups to air quality?
Elderly.
Okay, elderly.
People who've had pneumonia.
People with pre-existing heart and lung conditions, excellent. One other one I'd throw out is, asthma, COPD, et cetera, excellent. I'd throw out children because their lungs are still developing, and pregnant women. That's kind of the list of folks who want to take extra care. But really, because of this is becoming such a recurring thing year after year, really everybody should limit your exposure. So a couple things I'll suggest is, use your eyes and your nose. Right now would be a great time to be outside if you have outside chores. Try to schedule those things for when it's not smoky outside. Check the air quality. We have a bunch of resources to help you do that, so come find me afterwards if you're curious about how to find the information in your local area. And lastly, kind of take the mitigations that you can to keep smoke out of your own home. So, time the windows and doors, keep them closed when it's smoky outside, run an air filter if you can to keep that air clean inside your house. That's it.
Thank you so much, Paul, for that. And now, Rich Magnuson from the Emergency Management Specialist from Chelan County Sheriff's Office.
Good evening. Rich Magnuson, Chelan County Sheriff's Office. I'm going to talk a little bit about our current evacuations we have in place. I'm going to talk about first Lake Wenatchee side, since most of you are probably concerned with that. And then we'll talk about the Eniat side, what's going on over there. So currently we have a level 3 in effect from Trinity down to Alder Ridge. And then from Alder Ridge down to Meadow Creek, we have a level 2 in effect. That level 2 extends up Meadow Creek, and we made a decision tonight just before the meeting. We're going to extend that level 2 down onto Pole Ridge. So we're going to pick up those structures that are on Pole Ridge into a level 2 tonight. That's the only change we have on your side would be that. The level 1s are staying the same as far as Fish Lake, so all around the Fish Lake area. And then everything on the north side of the Chihuahua Loop Road down to the 6100 road is on a level 1. On the Eniat side, we do have some changes that are going to take effect as soon as I leave this meeting here. You heard the ops talk about the movement into the Eniat River, and so it's forcing our hand to up some of the evacuation levels over there. So the level 2 that's currently in effect from the snow park up to Cottonwood is going to bump up to a level 3. That area has been cleared out for about a week now. There's nobody in there. There's some Forest Service structures, but everything's been cleared. So we've got everybody out of there already. We're going to put from the snow park down to Stormy Creek. For you guys that are familiar with the INEAT, that's going to go to a level 2. It's currently a level 1. And then we're going to bump a level 1 from Stormy Creek down to Potato Creek. And a level 1 is just an advisory, just letting people know the fire's up, going up there. We just have some concerns with how hot it's burning up there and some potential. So we want to stay ahead of this and keep those notifications going. Real quick, I'll talk about how these decisions are made too. So we're not the only decision maker on these. We have the ultimate authority to put these into effect, but we rely on the team, we rely on the local forest district, or the Forest Service, and then the fire district, your local fire district. They come to us, we meet daily, we meet multiple times a day if needed, and we talk about what the fire is doing, what they predict it to do, and then we make our notifications based on that. So we're not just winging it and putting them on just for the fun of it. So also, as quick as we put them on, we try to get them back off again. So we don't want to have you guys on evacuation levels longer than you need to be. So when the threat goes away, we try to get those off as soon as we can so you guys aren't affected longer than you need to be. So Everbridge, I don't know how many of you guys have subscribed to Everbridge. Highly recommend you getting on there and subscribing. You don't need to subscribe to get the notifications. What we do when we put out a WIA notification over Everbridge is we take over kind of the cell phone towers. That's how your phones start going off when you go into a certain area. So if you don't sign up for Everbridge, you'll still get the alerts, so don't worry about doing that. If you sign up for it, you'll get some of the non-emergent messaging we put out. So we put out a lot of information on that doesn't go out on the cell phone towers. That's about it. I'm gonna try to stick around a little bit after this, but as you heard, I got to get up to the INEAT and get some changes made up there. So any questions afterwards, try to grab me before I get out of here and I can answer those for you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. The next person we're having speaking is Chief Steve Foley from Lake Wenatchee Fire and Rescue.
Hi there, good evening. All right, most of you know me. Steve Foley, Fire Chief here at Lake Wenatchee. I just want to start by saying thanks to the team here, the California Team 2. They've been amazing partners, bringing a bunch of knowledge into our area, experience, and really working with us, the locals, and the rest of the partners here to put together a good plan and keep things moving forward and staying ahead of the fire. So thank you very much to this crew here. Like Rich had said, we've all been working pretty well together. We've been meeting several times a day and making sure that everyone's kind of on the same page, which has been fantastic. One of the things that we're doing with Lake Wenatchee is we're making sure that we are your advocate for the fire activity that's going on. We're taking into account the things that you say you need, what we're hearing from you, and making sure that you're communicated with in a way that makes sense to you and messages that you can hear. So that's very much at the forefront of what we're doing. Other things we're doing, you probably have seen some of our rigs out. Today we had 4 apparatus out on the fire. We're working on the line with these folks. We're also doing some support here at the airstrip, making sure that our aircraft can fly and land and take off safely. And we did a little bit of work on the Pops Canyon fire this morning as well. So definitely out and about in the area. These folks are running the show when it comes to the fire. The big fire up there, and we are still very much the 911 response. We have our trucks ready, we have our folks with their pagers turned on, ready to respond to all the other emergencies that happen in this community. So we definitely have you on our mind and appreciate all of your support. For other things we're doing, we've been working with the Chelan Douglas Health District. We've got some box fan kits out there and some N95 masks at our station. Happy to get those out to folks that are sensitive and need the support. In general, we just will be around and appreciate you having me out here tonight. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Chief. The next person we have speaking is District Ranger Erica Tacker from the Wenatchee River District.
Hi everyone, Erica Tacker. As mentioned, I'm on the Wenatchee River Ranger District. I'm the ranger here, and I've been here since the beginning of this fire. I've been here since 2021, so seen a few seasons with you all, and really felt the tremendous patience and support from the community. So I just really have to commend you all for enduring. I know this is probably a mostly local crowd that's been here a long time, and I think your tolerance for some of this, nature is partly why you're here. You love you love the outdoors, and you love this country that unfortunately has a common habit of burning. So I just wanted to walk back a minute and just talk about the first days, because we were already as a region, as a national sort of fire organization, pretty strapped for resources, and just remind you that we had, some of our local folks, rappellers, and our crew, our hand crew from Wenatchee River District, bearing the brunt of trying to get that fire out and keep it small. It's in very rugged country, as I'm sure you know. It was in the fire scar from Maple Creek, and so heavy fuels and so forth. They did their best, and we're out there for a couple of days without a lot of support. They didn't get a lot of air support. We were not on the priority list by any stretch of the imagination, and they came in and were sort of dejected, after a couple of days, and I just felt for them, but we really had to kind of get to the next phase of planning to see what we could do with what we had safely, and also try to keep it small. But so after that, we had our local Type 3 team with their first fire assignment as a forest Type 3 team. They did actually help us out earlier this season with some repair up on the Labor Mountain fire, so they'd work together, but not on an incident like this. So the task for them, really, they weren't going to get any more resources than what they had in their team. Was to make a good plan that we could potentially hand to a complex team when they get here, once we could be higher on the priority list. And of course, those decisions are made way above my level, but really they're looking at how close is something to values, particularly communities, and if you have other values out there, and of course we do, of course, this beautiful habitat for fish and wildlife and all those things, other reasons to keep it small, they tend to get lower priority than those imminent threats to communities and private property. So while that team was with us, we were talking to the DNR, who protects some of the outlying private lands, and then also with the fire district, and they've been just amazing and staying in coordination with us. So we were able to grab this team that was already in the region, pre-positioned, as we saw a couple of really kind of scary nights of fire spread. And so that sort of leads me into the context of our closure order. We have a pretty large closure order for forest right now. It takes us not nearly as short a time to get our closure orders in effect as the county evacuations. We have to go through our legal review. It's unfortunately a really painful process, so sometimes we have to go bigger than we would like, but it's really based on that safety element of what is the fire going to do, and where do we think it could affect people. And also, the lay of the land out here, there's way too many access points to the forest. We don't have one gate where we can just close it and call it good. So my recreation staff, they looked at the map and they know all these back roads and trails, and if they can't close one spot, then we will have people running around potentially in harm's way. Even after we put closure orders in effect, sometimes people still maybe unfamiliar with this area. They're not seeing the signs. They're not seeing the fire right in front of them on the road. It's pretty wild what people see out there, but appreciate you kind of sharing that. But we have kids and we love this area, and so the Chihuahua is just such a special place. And in the NTIA, the community there also has fared with so much fire over the years, and it's really heavily used for recreation. And so we're going to do our best to scale the closures back as soon as we're out of harm's way. And really appreciate you coming out, and I'll be here for questions afterwards.
Thank you so much for that. And now our incident commander for California Interagency Incident Management Team 2, Matt Conklin.
Hey, good evening. So I want to, first of all, thank you guys for your cooperation, for your participation, and your engagement. Without you guys and the engagement we have here, we can't be as successful as we are to get the word out on what we're doing to protect those values at risk that are out there. There's a tremendous list of values at risk, and we're actively engaged in doing that. Erica was referring to priority lists. For context, right now we're number 3 in the Pacific Northwest, and the Pacific Northwest is number 1 in the nation. So we're doing pretty well on that, which is a double-edged sword. Because we have some values at risk that are threatened, that's what raises our priority. So we are getting some resources. We're getting a lot of help. We have just over 800 folks here on the fire now. to do a good job for that. When Erica invited us up to help, we came with 110. And there weren't that many firefighters when we got here. So we outnumbered the firefighters for almost a 2-to-1 there for a couple days until we could get some help here. That's just where we are nationally. We're continuing to do the good work that we are. We're working with the resource advisors to make sure that we're putting the fire line and the control line in the best place to maximize success, and that we don't have black on both sides of our control lines. That's, as fire managers, not a good look and not a good strategy. It's a lot of wasted effort. It's a lot of wasted exposure to the folks that are doing that good work out there. So wanted to share that with you guys so that you got some little bit of context of what we're doing out there. We are a full-service organization. We are public servants. So if you guys need help, if you have questions, which is why we're here tonight, if you need anything, please reach out to us. We'll get that question answered, and we'll make sure that you guys have the information you guys need to be successful out there. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much, Chief, for that. Want to again thank you everybody for coming tonight. We really appreciate it, and thank you for everybody attending online. We've been seeing some really nice comments, and we know the firefighters who are also watching this are really appreciative of those that are getting ready for their next shift or ones that are just coming off the hill. With that, we're going to go ahead and close out the briefing part of the meeting, and I'm going to point you to the different posters on either side of the room. So if there's a specific group or organization that you have questions for, or just want to come by and say hi, feel free to do so. If you want to leave and go enjoy dinner or some evening time with family and friends, you're also more than welcome to do that as well. But once again, thank you so much for visiting. Have a safe drive home. Take care.